Good morning, and thank you for this amazing opportunity to share some thoughts with you. It's a real pleasure to join the Venture Summit of Emerging Markets. Thank you to all participants and to distinguished speakers. Um, what I'd like to do over the next maybe 15 minutes or so, not too long, is build on the themes that have been discussed here. The session name is obviously Middle East and Africa. And what I'd like to do is share a little bit of some views covering how Dubai's innovation and future finance agenda fits into the larger regional context, both from a markets perspective and an innovation perspective. I will share my presentation with you shortly. Please bear with me. And I trust that the screen is up and running. I assume the screen is up and running?
Yes, it is.
Super. Okay, so maybe a few seconds on the Dubai International Financial Center. We are a financial free zone here in Dubai, in the UAE. We are over 15 years old, and we are a physical, legal, and regulatory carve-out in Dubai, designed 16 years ago to drive economic growth by diversifying Dubai's economy away from hydrocarbons. So a very, very innovative view on economic growth that the leadership here did, 15, 16 years ago. It's been a tremendous success, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do slightly later. So what I'd like to do now is maybe talk about essentially three areas. The first section is just to put into context the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia region, MEA, which of course includes prominently Africa and the Middle East. And I'd like to provide context of how Dubai fits into this market. And this is the dynamics of this market drive essentially our conversation today about innovation. There are probably four things I'll cover in this section very, very briefly. The first is that this region is defined by its scale and its size. Dubai itself may not be a large market in terms of population or demographics, but we are a hub economy in the middle of some of the largest and fastest growing economies in the world. We're also strategically located, and we have the infrastructure to be able to connect, as I'll show to you. I would not be able to have today's conversation without a specific and special mention to our incredibly special relationship with China that we're very proud about. And I'll tell you how that factors into our growth. And last but not least, we'll talk about why is it that we're able to attract people here to take advantage of these markets. That's the outline for this first section. So very quickly, I think all of us know intuitively that the Middle East, Africa, South Asia region is large, it's young, and it's urban. Whether it's the GCC or MENA or MEA, this is a large population of young people. The demographics are very different relative to the demographics of North America or Europe or even East Asia, where you have a heavier concentration of people at the elder spectrum. Here, it's the opposite. And what that means is that you'll have citizens and consumers who will be consuming financial services and other services, healthcare, education, for 20, 30, and 40 years, which is a very compelling business case. Naturally, because of the nature of these markets, developed markets, as everyone knows, have been growing at a faster pace relative to, obviously, global markets and certainly the OECD countries. I think we all know this despite COVID, and if you take out COVID and take out market adjustments, this observation holds true. That the youthful demographics coupled with the rapidly growing markets, that phenomenon naturally applies very well, and in particular to financial services at the GCC, at the MENA and MEA level. And essentially what you have here is evidence of the fact that our rate of growth for financial services is strong the last 20 years, and it is significantly higher in terms of global averages. So what that means is that, North America, Europe, or even China are massive markets, but we have the growth, particularly in financial services. Now, all of these demographics would not be interesting if you didn't put the context of where we're at. We like to talk about the advantage of being between time zones. Naturally, Dubai is between obviously major markets from a time zone perspective. And the DIFC itself, we believe that we are the largest and deepest market between London and Singapore. And we very much take advantage of it. And one of the things for those of you who have traveled through Dubai or in Dubai or from Dubai, you know that this connectivity between East and West, particularly into Asia, is significant. There are an incredibly large number of flights, and I've included Emirates and non-Emirates Airlines flights also. But this connectivity is incredible. I didn't have the space to show you the rest of the globe and the connectivity, but I can tell you that the Emirates connectivity from Dubai into Africa is the largest in the world. So what that means effectively is that there's no single African country that has as many destinations within Africa, the continent, as we do from Dubai. And so what we end up doing in MEASA is we're able to connect all of these markets that you see on the map right now to markets in the region and in Africa. And I think most of you have an intuitive sense of this fact. Let's talk a little bit about our special relationship with China. If we have these young growing demographics, and if you have all of this, this connectivity, this has resulted in significant trade. So two key messages here. One is we enjoy, by virtue of our infrastructure in shipping and aviation, an incredibly large amount of global annual trade. These numbers probably need to be updated, but north of $350 billion. And as I told you, we are a hub economy, and a significant piece of China-Africa trade goes through Dubai. And this is very, very important. 60% of China's overseas trade, in fact, goes through Jebel Ali. And what this does is this sets up a relationship that's founded on very, very solid economic and trade ties. And I'll talk a little bit about how we're transitioning from conventional economic activity into technology and innovation. But you can't get the innovation unless you have the core economic flows, which we are very proud of having. And as a result of this incredible trade exchange, the Chinese are very much part of our economic life, both at the Dubai level and at the DIFC level. There are over 200,000 Chinese in the UAE. Roughly 80 to 85% are in Dubai. Over 6,000 businesses in the UAE, roughly 5,000 in Dubai. Our balance sheet of 170, 180 billion, almost 50 billion comes from, sorry, it's a typo, comes from our Chinese banks. We have the top banks in the world here from China, top firms. So that story has been very, very successful. And last but not least, we would not be able to make this a destination in between these markets unless Dubai and the UAE did a great job of becoming a great place to live. Talent drives innovation. It drives conventional businesses. It drives the fintech space. And so I won't read every single piece here, but I'll simply say that when it comes to education, when it comes to schooling, when it comes to being able to live, being a destination, I think we have done a really good job. In the Middle East, we are clearly a top place, and certainly on the globe as well. And this is all really important. So if I summarize, I've given you a view of MEASA and how Dubai fits into MEASA by being a hub economy that attracts talent in the right way. We have great connectivity, we have great trade relationships, particularly with the East, and China is a very, very good example of that. Now, how are we pivoting from that traditional relationship into new opportunities? I think there are three important things that we should highlight here as we talk about it. I think the first one is to highlight how important it is that we've had government and leadership here that is very ambitious and that has a specific top-down innovation agenda. Dubai and certainly the UAE are places that have embraced technology and innovation as a means to drive economic growth. And this is very, very important. I'll touch briefly upon some of the themes that my previous colleagues from One MENA and Future have talked about, which are there are also some interesting characteristics of this region that lend itself to particular opportunities within the digital space. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about some of our strategy and how we're making that come together. And the key message here, as you can see from this funny graphic that I've tried to draw, is that the digital opportunity is being compressed and accelerated because of COVID. I think this is something we all know. So to begin with, for those of you who know Dubai, I won't spend too much time on this. Our visionary leadership has helped Dubai transform to become a regional hub. And over the next 2 slides, this story tells the viewers a story of reinvention every 10 years. In the 70s, it was the Jebel Ali port. In the 80s, it was Emirates Airlines. In the 90s, at the end of the 90s, it was DIFC. In the 2000s, it was mega projects and tourism. And of course, now we've gotten into incubation, acceleration, and of course, the Expo 2020, which is going to be held next year. So this is really important in terms of context. But not just that, the government has specific services and a knowledge-driven agenda. And so much like other places that are innovation-driven, the UAE and certainly Dubai has broad ambitions to push the education agenda so that a lot of the gross domestic product, the GDP growth, comes from knowledge and services. Accordingly, significant investments are planned in sectors such as R&D and manufacturing, clean energy, even space. And the point is that we're looking ahead and looking at the future to drive our growth. And that's very important because it comes as a policy agenda from the top. Not surprisingly, when you have this kind of agenda from the top, the ambitions in digital are strong. Anyone who's visited Dubai or lives here knows that the provision of services ranging from licenses to permissions to fees to registrations for automobiles, a whole array of services that you would need living in a city are done digitally. And we have a formal commitment, and we are recognized as a place that takes blockchain technology very seriously. We are already paperless in the government sector, and we have an ambition to convert all government services to not only be paperless, but to be on the blockchain. The DIFC itself has several use cases, including the use of smart contracts for our DIFC courts. So we embrace that. Okay, quickly, we could spend a lot of time on this. I will skim through the next few slides because my colleagues have talked about it. Look, Dubai, UAE, GCC, MENA, MEASA, we all have to varying degrees certain interesting specific attributes when it comes to digital, right? In this region, smartphone usage is really high, and the percentage of people who are buying online, as has been made the case, continues to increase, which is great news. We also have a very unique characteristic here in our labor market. The GCC, including UAE and Dubai, are the sending ends of at least 3 to 5 of the world's largest remittance corridors, which means that we have large labor forces that send hard currency from Dubai into places like India, Pakistan, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. All of this, of course, means that there's a bonanza when it comes to what technology can do for payments. Not surprisingly, this is slide 17, because you have these opportunities and because you have a young mobile population interested in technology, fintech and innovation continues to grow. The key message on this slide is that while external markets globally may be bigger, our markets are growing at a faster rate when it comes to investment into fintech. The next slide here shows some data that we use from Magnet. I mean, essentially the number of deals, venture capital funding, both in terms of number of deals and the amount of dollars this is a GCC number only, continues to increase. So the money is following the talent. Not surprisingly, and this slide also needs to be updated, but we have now evidence of success. So you have innovation, but you also have liquidity events and exits, right? The most notable one that everyone knows about is Careem's acquisition by Uber, which puts Careem as obviously a bona fide global unicorn. And our aspiration in the DIFC and in Dubai is to generate more of these. Let me close this section quickly by saying the way in which the DIFC is working closely with Dubai is essentially to combine the right strategy with the right regulatory frameworks. On the left is a ranking. You know, Dubai gets mentioned a lot in global rankings, and obviously Dubai DIFC continue to be ranked highly globally in terms of our future potential for fintech. This happens because we're able to do things on top here that I've mentioned. So we had the region's first fintech accelerator called Fintech High, which is globally ranked and has done a phenomenal job of attracting talent and getting companies up and growing access to revenue. And these companies do really well and get funded. We have a partnership with a global company called Startup Bootcamp, many of you know about. Again, a really innovative company. We have innovation licenses. We are working with the Dubai government on a future finance ecosystem that will be in the Dubai Future District, which is the area from here, the DIFC to Emirates Tower. So there's a lot of stuff happening, including a $100 million fintech fund, which we launched 2 years ago. And I'm happy to say that we will be scaling that up to 300 million with multiple Dubai entities by the end of this year. But all of that happens only when you have the right regulations. Our regulator is the DFSA, and they were the first to put in crowdfunding regs into the region. We have a spectacular and the only comprehensive money services and payments regs in place today. There's tremendous interest from global and regional players here. Really, really well-structured regulations. And of course, we take cyber very, very seriously as well, because the more digital your economy is, the more susceptible you are to cyber risk. So really, all of this is coming together as we define the ambition, not just for fintech, not just to digitize the economies, but to drive the future of finance from the DIFC here in Dubai. Let me conclude with a few observations to put this all together. A few thoughts. Our success as a financial center in traditional financial services relied on our ability to cluster and create scale in traditional financial services. We've done that. Our aspiration is to do the same in innovation. We have ideas on scale, and we are doing this because we want to drive the next wave of job creation and economic growth in Dubai. So let me recap. I've talked about innovation here, but you may lose the fact that at its core, when it comes to big global banks, asset managers, insurance companies, legal firms, we have the world's biggest, best, and top companies here. And very proud, of course, to have the big four Chinese state banks here as well, right? So that's the scale in traditional finance. But we're also starting to get that same success in the fintech space. So again, these numbers need to be updated every day. But there's something like 400 plus fintechs in the GCC. We're pretty confident that over half are in Dubai. And I can tell you as of today, we're north of 180 or 185 of them. So it's a growing base. We continue to capture share, and we're replicating the same scale that we did in traditional financial services. Just a reminder, these numbers are also need to be updated. We are today already a financial center of 25,000 people, over 600 regulated entities, and over 2,500 registered firms, just to put it into context. Globally ranked, of course. And so let me conclude my discussion with just one reflection, which is we've talked about the region, we've talked about Dubai, we've talked about DIFC, we've talked about the aggregation of capital and talent as a main driver here. We've talked about the importance of linking in with our colleagues in China to get talent and scale. We're gonna continue to put this all together, and we are very, very keen on driving the future of finance from Dubai, which means digitizing financial services from end to end, which means supporting all technologies and innovations that will drive the digitization of the Dubai economy, the UAE economy, and the MENA economy. And as long as we continue to cooperate with partners like yourselves and to share and to offer the advantages of the free zone and to make sure that our regs continue to be top-notch, which they are, we continue to provide the soft and hard infrastructure, I have no doubt that we will continue to enjoy this growth and create significant economic value. I would like to thank you for your time, and happy to share this presentation with anyone who needs to view it. Thank you.